Hello and welcome to In the Growth Space. My name is David McGlennon and I'm your host. Really glad that you're here today. We've got a great interview, a great conversation with someone that I met a few years ago. Some of you may have been listening when I was talking a lot about the Turning Points retreat down in Atlanta. And in that process, I got a chance to meet Isaac Phillips. Isaac was at the time the leader of Sojourn Adventures, and we talk a lot about his role there as a leader, and that particular organization was the ropes course, the elements that we used in Turning Point to help us be able to bust through our terror barriers and the things that were holding us back from really achieving our dreams. And so we talk a little bit about that. But let me first tell you a little bit about Isaac, because he's just one of those guys that when I met him, I just clicked with. And there's a lot of reasons why, as you'll see here in a minute. But Isaac really began professionally in leadership development back in 2004. And now he has logged over 10,000 hours facilitating hands-on learning experiences with leaders and their teams from a wide range of ages and backgrounds and demographics. And he's really an amazing leader. Isaac is really passionate about seeing leaders come alive and thrive where they live and work and play. And he now works with an organization called Providence Coaching. And he comes alongside leaders in order to help them to maximize their impact and do that while they're growing in new levels of awareness and really pushing through their own terror barriers. And so Providence Coaching works with CEOs. They work with leaders that are hungry to see growth and to get greater results with less drama and to enjoy more freedom. A lot of what we talk about in this conversation, we start off talking a lot about getting to your dream or getting past the thing that's holding you back. We call it the terror barrier. And so if we want to get to a new normal, we've got to bust through our terror barriers. And that's such a big part of our growth process. So Isaac talks about and shares some great strategies on how to move through our terror barrier. And he also talks a little bit more too about his own growth journey. And I'm really, really excited for this conversation. But before we get into this episode too far, what I'd love for you to do is, if you're listening on any of the traditional podcast platforms, would you do me a favor? Would you go out really quick, give us a rating? Hopefully it's a 5-star rating. Give us a quick review. Tell us what you like about this particular episode or other episodes that you've listened to. And if you're not subscribed yet, would you do me a favor and subscribe? We'd love to make sure that we continue to make a great impact on your growth journey. Also, we have this episode up on our In the Growth Space YouTube channel. And we're really excited about having this channel. Sometimes we bring in elements that we talk about, more visual elements. I know on one of our previous episodes with Jim Pashak, we brought in an embarrassing photo of me. So if you haven't seen that episode, go back a couple of episodes and check that one out. But we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell so that you're notified when our episodes go live. All right, so let's go ahead and bust through some of those terror barriers right now with Isaac Phillips. Well, hey, Isaac, welcome to In the Growth Space, man. I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh, David, I am so pumped. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure. Just for the benefit of the audience, Isaac and I met a few years ago. And we met at Turning Point, who, if you've been listening to the podcast for a little bit of time, you know that I was part of Turning Point. I helped really partnered with Paul Martinelli to bring Turning Point back from kind of being on the shelf. It's his intellectual property and his event that he created. And I just had the idea to bring it back post-COVID. And so you and I met, Isaac, in that process. And man, it was like one of those things where we just hit it off. And I just remember, like, when we were there on site at Sojourn Adventures, the ropes course that we use for Turning Point, when we first met, it's kind of like I just hugged you because I felt like we were like brothers from a long a long distance mother, a different mother.
Yep.
We've had this really cool relationship over the past several years, and it's been really fun to dream and to brainstorm. And you've had a great growth story, and you've taken people through a growth journey as well in a lot of the things that you've done in the past at Sojourn in particular, but take us back even pre-Sojourn, and like, what were some of the things or the points in your life that created a growth journey? Like I know, for example, that you worked for Chick-fil-A. What a great organization to,
Absolutely.
learn some leadership principles, and, and then, the serve model, and just like maybe take us back and say, and tell us a little bit about, like, what was it about maybe even your growing up and some of those points in your life that really propelled you into this whole area of growth personally, and then taking other people through it.
Oh, man, David. Well,
I
just
know
to
it's a broad.
echo, yeah, give me your life story in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
No,
in 2 minutes. Yeah, right.
well, just to echo what you're saying, gosh, David, you are a brother in arms, and not only just in how we do operate and think, but just I think what really resonates with me and you is just that desire to serve and see
Mm,
people grow, not just for the sake of growth, but to really see their unique gifting and skills come alive,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that they are overjoyed in the things they get to like operate and do.
yeah.
And I think even as you're saying the childhood story, I think the hardest lesson I learned first was I got held back in second grade.
Oh
Like I
man.
was with my friends, we were actually missionaries. We were over across the pond,
Oh wow.
and so I had lost all my friend circle. I had just like gotten into this place, and we came in like halfway through the year, and so literally as we got there, I just didn't know the content. I didn't know, like, second grade, like, how hard is 1 plus 1? For me, it was really hard. So
Yeah.
I think one of those really growth moments was I got held back, and what was really
Yeah.
hard for me was the friends that I had started to develop moved on.
Mm,
The curriculum, the content, like, wasn't me to study, and I just kind of had this message written on the tablet of my heart that said, "You're dumb. No matter
oh,
what you do, you'll fail. No matter how hard you
mm,
try, it's not enough."
oh,
And yeah, as a kid, I mean, everyone's got a
yeah.
childhood story, something like
Sure.
that. But tablet is no longer pen and paper, like, it's written in stone.
Stone.
And
Yeah.
that message, I quite frankly deal
Uh,
with today. It's like, no matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And praise the Lord for
yeah.
good mentors at
Yeah.
Providence Coaching. Like, we'll get that later, but we kind
Yeah.
of become trusted advisors, or Sherpa. And I
Mm-hmm.
had people come around me and said, "Hey,
Love it.
yeah, we all have a hard story. We all have something that's difficult. It's not, don't let that message define you, and use that to grow, use that to be stronger, use that to learn new things about you." And so now, again, as an adult, I could look excellent because I'm working really hard, I'm staying late, I get the job done on time. But it was all, if it was out of that, I'm never good enough. It
Mm,
because I'll be negative. I would have this like anxiety, frustration, this guilt.
yeah.
But instead, I had these mentors come alongside me,
Mm,
and now I get to do out of joy and abundance and thankfulness and gratitude, and like I get to
yeah.
see the benefit. And so, man, there's just this heart change
Mm-hmm.
that I think, even as we're talking about this growth mindset, it's helping people not just do the right things, but think about them, and like, what's that overflow versus out of the dregs of me, I have to do this one more thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, if you're gonna ask for childhood stories, man,
That's it.
second grade is the first one
Well,
that comes to mind.
well, what's interesting is, so I'm curious, how did your parents kind of help you navigate through that? Because I mean, if that's the story, somehow that got changed, and I got to believe that your parents were instrumental in kind of changing that around.
Yeah, I think even as I get here, I was surrounded by great parents. I mean, I was one of the few beneficial people who, like, man, my parents, they loved me. They put effort into making sure that I knew that, not through word, but then also action and playtime. And
Yeah.
it just, like, I would say I was surrounded by good parents.
Yeah.
growing up. And, you'll hear this in my story. I am a Christian. That was a part of our
Yeah.
growing up story, like scripture verses. And so even not only just, they were present and active, but like we'd find scripture verses and say, hey, like, how does this play into that scenario? And so
Love
I would say in terms of how deep that could have gone, I
it.
think I had some safety nets that caught me before the
Mm.
absolute bottom of
Yeah.
this valley. But at the same time, it still was there. Like I still had to wrestle with what's that mean. And so my parents helped me kind of get some good either phrases or helpful mindsets, or even like, and this is what I've as an adult, it's like, what behaviors are you doing that you're doing out of discipline because they're good? And you'll kind of
Mm.
realize later that this discipline actually was a saving grace for you, literally.
Yeah.
Or hey, out of this valley you walk in, you just might pick up some unwanted behaviors that you have to like. My parents just didn't
Mm.
let me do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
I
great.
remember, I remember literally yelling at my dad, "I just want to do this," and he was like, "No, that crosses off these things." Like I was like, "You suck," and I was like, he was like,
Yeah. Right.
"That's fine." The
Yeah.
answer's still no. And
Yeah.
so,
Love
like
it.
having a parent who really just wasn't willing to let me go, like
Mm.
so far down this valley, I couldn't find my way back out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were constantly helping me grow and loving me. And again, some phrases I use now as a Sherpa,
Yeah.
they know the difference between, if you don't know what Sherpa is, they're the
Oh, I
ones who
love it.
climb Mount
Yeah.
Everest.
Yep.
They're the ones who carry the backpack. They
Yep.
know the trails, they know the terrain. If there's some bad weather coming in, they are challenging you to get your butt up and go. We got to get to safety.
Yeah.
And if you need water, if you twisted your ankle, they have compassion on you to slow down and take care of anything, challenging compassion. And they're the ones when you get to the top, they take a picture of you, but they're not really in the picture. Like
In the
they
picture.
celebrate the climber. And so my parents really did celebrate, or sorry, challenge and have compassion. They really pushed and prodded, but that also said, hey,
Yeah.
like you might need to go take an extra nap, slow down a little bit. And so
Mm.
having just people in my life like that was huge growing up. And
Oh
so
man.
it helped me see challenges not as something to run from, but to embrace and actually like look for. Like, hey,
Yeah.
where's this opportunity to grow? And quite frankly, where is this opportunity to fail? Because when I do fail, it means I've actually tried hard. I've
Yeah.
actually moved past my ability, and then you can look back and go, hey, what didn't go well? What can I do differently next time? And so that
Yeah.
failure, which I don't think there is, it's just a chance to
Yeah.
take one. It's an insight into self of how can I fail forward? How can I grow
Mm-hmm.
through this?
Yeah.
And so that idea has just been immersed in me since I was a kid. It doesn't hurt that both my parents are marriage and family counselors, like they're licensed professional counselors. And
Oh
so
gosh, that's good. That helps. Yeah.
matters of the heart were always
Yes.
talked about. We debriefed Finding
Wow.
Nemo, went to theaters, watched the 90-minute, 2 hour Finding Nemo movie,
Oh, that's
and then
great.
we went to a local diner and talked about lessons learned and how our like how that could impact us as humans for another 90 minutes.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. So now I get it because I'm hearing you share this story, I can understand how you're such a natural at the things that where I saw you at Sojourn
Mhm.
and I love the fact that you talked about a Sherpa because and I love the challenge and the compassion because you got to have both of those things to be
Mhm.
able to kind of keep pushing or pulling back and knowing when to do both or either.
Absolutely.
And and in at Sojourn. So for those of you who Sojourn Adventures is a place in Atlanta, Georgia, just outside Atlanta, Georgia, that we use as a ropes course to use as a metaphor for the things that we go through in
Mhm.
life that create challenge, that create um, uh, getting outside of our comfort zone and
Mhm.
breaking through something that we call the terror barrier. And one of the things that I
Mhm.
know both you and the team that you trained there are so good at is both challenge and compassion and helping
Mhm.
people to navigate that space that I call the growth space. It's outside of their comfort zone, and it's where they're really bumping up against their terror barrier. And I
Mhm.
think that it's really important for people to understand that those kinds of intentional getting outside of your comfort zone experiences, man, they're so important to growth. And you
Mm,
know, this month that we're talking in is kind of our theme is personal growth, because as we get ready to end the year and move into the next year, the only way we're going to make next year different is to get outside of our comfort zone and break through some of those terror barriers. So, I guess, what is it about the ropes course in particular, and just kind of getting out of your quote unquote element, if I could use a pun,
thanks for
because
that.
yeah, that really helps people to like discover things within themselves that they couldn't
Mm,
before.
mm. Gosh, and I just want to say this again: life change happens. We are called into deeper and more refined who we are things. But
Yeah,
I think Sojourn Adventures, I got to work there for 11 years. I think
yeah.
Brent Curl took one of the biggest risks of his life hiring this guy, Isaac
uh,
Phillips. Thank you, Brent Curl, for that. And gosh, the leadership team there is phenomenal. They do great things with
mhm.
so many different teams. But as you think about the question of, and again, I would echo, like, if you have a desire to go learn by doing, go to
It's
ropes course. I
yeah,
recommend Sojourn Adventures specifically, a little
absolutely.
bias there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I've learned so much from, and this is what I think I love, just that having that growth mindset. At this point, I've been doing ropes course industry for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is someone who's always willing to learn. I remember leading a training just before I left into Providence Coaching, and I was still learning from them. Like, this is day one for this person. I was like, hey, like,
Yeah.
what question would you ask, and how would you lead this? What story would you tell? And so I think just one, being always willing to always willing to learn. But when you talk about terror barriers, and I think this is why it's even just so important that we, as trusted advisors, lots of different words there, but we
Hmm.
have to deal in trust. I don't care who you are. If I'm nervous about something and I walk up to someone and there's not a level of trust established soon and fast and like somewhat sturdy, like I have to have that quickly. I have to deal in trust. Like, I'm not going to trust you to lead me anywhere. I'm not going to trust you to
Yeah.
like jump off telephone pole or
Yeah.
much. And there are some, I think personality matters, David.
Yeah.
Like, some people are terrified because when they pull in the parking lot, they look at this massive structure up there and go, I'm
Yeah.
not, like, I'm nervous on being here. Not to mention, Sojourn Adventures is a church, it's a fee-based ministry of a
Right.
church.
Sure.
And so sometimes they would show up and they were just nervous because they thought from a spiritual perspective, they were going to be, people have backgrounds. They might have had a
Yeah.
great spiritual experience, they might have had a horrible spiritual experience.
Right.
You just asked
Right.
me about my parents. If their father was like awesome, man, when I say dad or father, man, they're excited, they're
Yeah.
good. If you've had
Yeah.
a horrible experience, like, you don't want to mention that, much less
Right.
dive into it. And so
Yeah.
we have to deal in trust, and as people walk into these spaces and the terror barriers, man, you have to go along with someone that you're willing to at least listen to.
Mm.
And when that trust starts being grown, I think as a facilitator, I'd look to, how do I engage them? If they're
Yeah.
quiet, I kind of come in a little more subtle. If,
Mm.
like, you and I were energetic and
Yeah.
charismatic and outgoing, then like we're like throwing sarcastic stabs back and forth, because it's
Right.
that's the love language, if you want to use that word. Like, I'm
Yeah.
speaking the same language that they want to hear and that they naturally involve
Yeah.
in. And I'm not saying be all things to all people. Like, no one likes, like,
Yeah.
not. I would rather you be genuine, like, be who
Yeah.
you are. But who you are can serve a lot of different people. And
Right.
so, helping that, building trust, kind of interacting, and people love feeling. Um, okay, so put on your whatever one you need to hear. I think people want to be loved, heard, and valued.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
some people need to hear respected,
Yeah.
valued, and heard. Like, I
Yeah.
both go and play, but
Yeah.
to me they mean the same thing. They want to be known. And so, whether they're quiet, whether they're loud, whether engaging, whether they're kind of more reserved, they just want to be valued and a part of the team. And so, as we get to talk to them and engage with them, they start building this snowball where it starts rolling down the hill. And the larger that ball gets, I almost think of a bank account. If I start in depositing money and it's
Hmm.
growing and growing and growing and growing, well, then I ask for a withdrawal. That withdrawal is equal to the amount of trust I put into them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if I say, hey, we don't do this at Sojourn often, but sometimes just for rainy schedule, we kind of had to do like, this is a highs only, like you're walking in and jumping off. That's hard. People haven't
Yeah.
really had to build trust. We prefer to kind of like lead, like kind of increase that slowly. And then when it gets to, this massive 60-foot structure, you're going to climb up and like jump off and grab a telephone pole, or have this rope holding you and you're going to go like across
Yeah.
this, 6 elements to get to the end of it. It's just, it's hard.
Yeah.
But if I've built trust, if I've kind of helped people grow, that's a huge win. And then I
Hmm.
think as I'm saying this, like I'd be remiss to leave out, people have to have a reason why.
Yeah. Yeah.
If if it's my reason why you should do it, good luck with that. I might
Right.
be,
Right.
it does, the trusted advisor might know that this is a really helpful way to get there. And like, I can push and prod, but
Hmm.
people do what they want to do. And so if I can help that person approach their terror barrier and say, hey, we're going to take one step at a time. When we get
Hmm.
to the threshold, you have a choice. Are you going to choose to continue on this same path that might lead a year, 10 years, 20 years down the road? Or, hey, let's paint a vision on what could happen if you change this. What could
Yeah.
happen to your life, your family, your work, your
Mm.
passion? Like what could that look like?
Yeah.
And if this is your barrier threshold to getting to that place, man, what's it going to take for you to go through it?
Oh man, that's great. That's such a great, and even as you're sharing that, I'm thinking in my mind of a scenario where I was with a group going through the elements, and I just remember one of your facilitators was helping someone get past their terror barrier, and the question he asked, which I thought was a brilliant question, because at that point he basically said, "What can I do to support you right now?"
Mm.
And and it was brilliant. And I don't remember what the response was, but I just remember that question. And I think, to me, helping people to get through that terror barrier, you hit it right on the head. It takes trust, and it takes steps along the way,
Mhm,
and then it takes a conscious effort
mhm.
on the part of the person to be able to do something different, do something that they've never done. And yeah, they may jump off that telephone pole and they may miss the grab, the trapeze thing, or whatever you call that. I don't know the proper term, trapeze thing. It just looks like trapeze to me.
Trapeze thing.
Yeah,
Everyone knows. It's good. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah. But I think that just helping people to like think through that,
Mhm,
and making the choice to do something different, maybe something that they've never done before,
mm,
and then to be able to look back on it and go, and that's the thing that's cool about the turning point elements, is that when you get done with an element, you, as a group, you kind of sit down and you kind of debrief, and you kind of go, hey, what did we learn about that? What did you
mm,
learn individually? What did we learn as a group? And I think that it's super important for all of us, as we think about growth, and as we think about our own growth journey and moving through our own terror barriers. It's really important
mm,
to have a Sherpa that is full of compassion, but is also full of challenge as well. And having
mm.
both of those is really important, I think, is what I heard in your story, is to be able to
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
push through, to be able to push through.
Yeah, and then even again, gosh, I love these conversations, David. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I think a part of what's, I just want to be explicitly clear versus inherently possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it be the climber who's climbed Mount Everest, or be a participant at Sojourn Adventures trying to climb something different. Uh, I love that power pole analogy at Sojourn, just because everyone gets to define their own level of success.
Yeah.
And even the climber of Mount Everest, they chose, I'm going to go climb this thing. That was like,
Yeah.
that happened beforehand. And
Right.
so when they get to choose their version of success, like, again, just the power pole, this telephone pole on the ground, I would look at, let's look at you, David, and say, hey, David, what is success to you? Is it getting 2 feet off the ground, put on the harness and helmet and put all the gear on, and then
Yeah.
climb 2 feet off the ground? Is it climb to the top of this telephone pole and leaping out? Is it, what is it for you? And
Hmm.
sometimes people just make the mistake of success is A or B. It's either or.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, like,
There's a range.
what if,
Mm.
what makes the most sense for you?
Mm-hmm.
And people, they just say, hey, well, I saw this happen to someone else. So success is a dollar amount. Success is a position. Success is
Mm-hmm.
a finish this specific cross line. And that's just fallacy. I mean,
Yeah.
we
That's
really
so
want
good.
people to define that because everyone comes from a different place in life. Age and
Mm-hmm.
stage matters.
Yep.
And as a Sherpa, we get to come along to people and say, hey, where do you want to see yourself in a year? And I think it's really, you do have to plant a flag somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you have to plant the flag. But
Yeah.
once you do that, you then get to take into account, one, is it even possible? Like, is that attainable?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what tacks along the way, what steps are going to help me move that ball forward? And progress is great. Perfection is really like impossible to meet. And so let's make intentional progress every day. And that might mean your terror barrier, we don't go through that today. It
Yeah.
might mean we build some muscle and
Yeah.
start getting some reps in so that when that day comes, man, we're gonna crush it. uh
Yeah.
but we gotta, like, allowing yourself the chance to get there is just a part of the growth journey. You don't run a
Yeah.
marathon after sitting in front of a computer for a year. You got to
Right.
build that ability.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. And I'm thinking about this conversation and kind of pushing through terror barriers and that stepping stone approach. And I'm just wondering, if you could share, like what have been some things that you've had to do in your life that have pushed you through, that terror barrier of your own? Because I think it's always great to be able to hear other people's stories, and I know
Mm.
everybody is different. Everybody has their own place and their own season of life. I know,
Mm.
the people that listen to the podcast are a wide range of leaders, both, from emerging leaders to,
Mm.
leaders who are kind of advancing in their career to that, that senior level leader who may be a founder of a company.
Mm.
We all have our points that we have pushed through that terror barrier, and we've actually purposefully done it. Sometimes we've purposefully done it. Sometimes we've been shoved. So, kind of pick your poison kind of a thing. But if you, can think of a couple of, points in your life that you've
Mm.
really like walked through that terror barrier or gotten through it, what were some of those elements for you?
Yeah, David, I've got two that come to mind, and I'm going to lean on you, the host. Let me know if I need to cut some time or whatnot. But there's the
Sure.
one that I came across a wall, and it took someone saying, "Hey, like it was a fear of failure," which kind of came out of my second grade story. But I was a fear of
Yeah.
failure, and I think that was one of the biggest growth moments of my life.
Mm,
But then there's also one that's like, "Hey, I want to choose to pursue something that I know I'm made to do. I know I'm darn good at it, but
yeah.
it's different." And so I think for now, I want to start with this one, but if we have
Yeah.
time, I'd love to share the second one too.
Yeah. Sure.
Uh, so Sojourn Adventures, I came on in a leadership capacity and was helping strategic, what is mission, vision, value, like, what does it mean to create and implement and hold accountable manuals and the systems in play, and that was a lot of just back end leadership work. And but then there was also my favorite part of the job, which was the people. I got to
Yeah.
interact with staff members. I got to do some trainings. I got to like see a client. And yeah, even when how we met was I kind of had a phone
Yeah.
call with you and said, hey, what is success at the end
Right.
of your turning point event, and how do I hear from this and then make it happen on the day of, whether in
Hmm.
planning, implementing, and then even say, hey, as a team member, how do you do that well? And so I was working really hard to do that part of the job, and I was pushing 50, 60 hours a week. And some of you are like, I work 80 hours a week. That's dumb. I should have been able to do my job in 40 hours. Like, it was absolutely
Sure.
above what should have been asked of me. And I was working hard. I was sweating. I was like, man, like I'm doing good things. And then Brent
Mm,
Curl said, hey, Isaac, and he had, just to his credit, he had lots of meetings with me ongoing that said, this isn't getting done. This isn't going. How can you do this? What support do you need? He was being a wonderful leader, just to paint him in a
yeah.
positive light for a second. He was
Yeah.
doing a really great job of leading me to getting the job done. And I wasn't doing it. So I was being a bad
Mm.
employee, just like straight up. I was me. But we came to a head meeting after he had sought counsel, conversations with me. He said, Isaac, here's a line. You are the best individual contributor that I know of as a facilitator. You will always have a job as a facilitator, but this leadership role I hired you for isn't being done. It's the things that only you can do. It's a phrase I use all the time with my clients is, what are
Yes,
the things that
yes.
only you can do? And they're not getting done.
Yeah.
And so you have 90 days to see growth in these very clearly written, clearly expressed. If I can check the box, has this been done or not? And so again, excellent leadership from Brent. But I walked out of that meeting going, he hates me, he doesn't value what I do, and didn't hear anything I do. Like I hate his guts. Like
Yeah.
I was livid.
Yeah.
And for like it was basically 10 days, almost 2 weeks. I talked to my wife. I had a close mentor of mine, and they all asked questions of like, well, is he wrong? I said, don't ask that question. That's a dumb
Yeah.
no. Like, listen to me.
Yeah.
And
That's funny.
eventually I had people, trusted advisors in my life, go, Isaac, he's right. Like if
Mhm.
you really want to grow in leadership, you need to do these things. He
Mm.
acknowledged that you are a great facilitator, great individual contributor, but you're
Yeah.
not growing. And I was like, well, dang it. so
Crap, I
so
always hate that one.
yeah, like so I have a choice. Do I lean into hard and grow,
Yeah.
or do I cut my losses and enjoy being a facilitator? And I was like, I want to learn, I want to grow. The fact that he was leaning into me this much meant a lot to me. So I sought at least 2 meetings a week to like, what can I do better? The things that I'm not doing at all or not doing well. I made intentional, like I put on like kind of our meeting notes, like how am I doing? What did you learn?
Yeah.
Like, am I on the right path? And so, man, we just started seeing growth. Well, uh, you know, day 85 came and I'm kind of sweating bullets. Like we haven't had a follow-up conversation. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. 89, 90, the day is here and we don't talk.
Oh man.
91, 90. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this what's happening? And so
Yeah.
at day like 95, I was like, Brent, I'm
Yeah.
stressing the frick out. He was like, why?
Yeah. I
I was
need to
like,
know something here, buddy.
am I
Yeah.
fired? Like, he's like, no, you're doing great work. Like, and then
Lesson for a leader, make sure you
yes.
always follow up with when you get the
Oh
accountability. When you
man.
put the
Oh man.
accountability out there, you got to follow up. I
Well,
love that.
so he and I like had a hearty laugh, and he actually did a great job celebrating. As soon as he heard, he's like, "Oh no, like I missed that." He responded
Awesome, man.
phenomenally,
Mm,
celebrated me, affirmed me,
mm,
even like made like goals for next year that kind of helped. And so, and again, I would say I'm in my position now as an executive coach, leadership consultant,
mhm.
because Brent Curl led me the way he
Yeah,
does. I just so much respect for him. And even
yeah,
that was I think it was year 3 or 4 of my 11-year tenure. And
yeah.
I'm proud to say Brent led me the rest of that time and like continued to help me grow in ways I didn't even know I needed it. But
Oh, that's
so
so
we
cool.
actually were telling this story together because we started leading a time management training that I was like,
Oh,
hey,
neat.
I learned this skill.
I
And
love
so
it.
it was just, we both had a great laugh because it truly was one of my biggest growth needs because I wasn't leading well.
Sure.
And someone came in my life and said, this is no longer allowed. Like I'm no
Mm,
longer
mhm.
Dr. Henry Cloud says you get what you create and allow. Are you going
Allow.
to
Yeah,
create a space of
yeah,
growth? Are you going to allow a space of you know negativity or
mhm.
fill in the blank? And
Yeah.
so that was
Man, I'm so glad you brought up that quote because I think that there are a lot of leaders who have an organization that when they start talking about I talk to a lot of leaders about culture and they start talking about, oh man, I think my culture is just crap. And
mm,
so my question back to them is, well, what have you allowed?
mm,
And because you're either going to create culture by design or by default. And either way, it's up to you. And so I think as leaders, not only just culture, but our organizational challenges. Sometimes if
mm,
we're not being really intentional with how we're leading our people and how we're helping them to grow and to push through their own terror barriers,
mm.
it's because we've allowed it to happen.
Oh,
And so, leadership is a lot about being intentional. And I think that
absolutely.
it's been a huge word for me. And I know that I haven't always lived up to that being intentional, but it's, as you said, having advisors in your life, that inner circle to be able to help you navigate that and really kind of call you on your own BS, your own belief systems, and how you're, you thought I was going the wrong way,
That
didn't
was
you?
well done. Well done.
But yeah, no, I mean, it is, and I think that that to me is also one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about having an inner circle. And,
Mm,
it's where we developed our, inner circle concept of having a mastermind, having those people that are around you that have helped us to
mm,
grow and to call us on our crap and to be able to push us through to kind of be the collective Sherpa, for each other. And I think that's really, really important. And, and that actually, I just kind of thought of this question, so how did you develop your own inner circle and those advisors that were around you to help you say, hey, Brent's right?
yeah. Well, and I think this kind of goes back to the a personality. People throughout my entire life, and I think this is part of this is even my missionary kid story. Part of it is
Mm,
I've always yearned for deeper conversation.
yeah.
Part of it is I know that I need encouragement, like for benefit or problems, I seek verbal affirmation, and
Yeah.
that's just part of something I have to like work through on my own journey. But as I always have wanted community, regardless of where I am in life, the circles that I'm a part of,
Mm,
I don't let superficial conversations thrive.
hmm.
Not that I don't love whatever sports on the TV or in the conversation, not that I don't love the latest TV show. I just don't know about them
Yeah.
because I seek intentional conversation. And
Yeah. I love that.
my entire journey, I mean, in college, I was on intramural teams, I did my classes, but the people that I let really stay in my inner circle, they always help me be growing one step better than I was
Mm,
yesterday. And again, this is part of the time management training that I lead even now for my current executive clients. We have a life wheel, and James Clear says, "Hey, if you can do 1%
yeah.
better every day, you're winning." And so
Yeah.
I have determined what is success in these 7 areas of
Mm,
my life.
yeah.
Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, family, career, social. Like what is one 5-minute thing? Again, most anyone I know can do 5 minutes that if I do this, like it's going to be a win.
Mm,
And for example, my daughters, my goal, like my written goal, is I want to spend 5 minutes with them so that they know my laugh and smile, my laughter and
mm,
smile. And so
yeah.
I make sure that I laugh with them once a
Love it.
day. And from workout, hey, what can I do 5 minutes? And I know you're not going to be running marathons with a 5-minute workout. I get it,
Yeah,
but
5 minutes, put it, back to back, you will.
well, but how many, show of hands, how many of you had a day that just got away from you and you're like, oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh, I can't believe how fast today went. I can't, it's almost midnight.
Yep.
I haven't done da 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 da. So I
Yeah.
take 5 minutes as a win, but I want to spend an hour, right? Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
spend, and so what is the 5-minute win? And you just don't break the
Yeah.
cycle. And so
I
I do
love it.
5 minutes every day, regardless. I don't stop at 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry, baby
Yeah.
girl. You have
Yeah.
your 5 minutes are up. You can't hear
You're
my
up.
laugh
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
No,
Right.
like how well would
Uh,
that conversation go? So
yeah. No.
but the win is 5 minutes.
Mm,
What it does after that is icing on the cake. And so
yeah. I
as
love
we
it.
were talking about how have I surrounded myself with an inner circle,
Yeah.
everyone in my
Yeah.
circle is like they're positive, they are
Mm-hmm.
hungry for growth. Patrick
Mm-hmm.
Lencioni says they hungry, humble, smart. And so like
Yep.
they're constantly looking for that in their own lives. And if they're not, I had lots of facilitators. I got to train over 250 facilitators at Sojourn. Got to
Yeah.
interact with 1,500 teams while I was in my boat ropes course world. And
Mm.
the people that stayed were people that were in that circle. Did I welcome with open arms anyone and everyone because everyone wants to be loved, heard, valued? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the people who stayed and I kind of pursued conversations with were the ones who they were looking for growth. They're looking to be better every day. And
Mm.
and again, I'm not gonna kick you out. I just don't. That might not pursue you. And there's a
Yeah.
difference in everyone's gonna walk away going, man, Isaac, I felt heard and valued and respected in the conversations with Isaac. Everyone, it's my goal that everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
So does that distinction make sense? Is that
Yeah.
helpful?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm actually just sitting here taking notes as what you're saying some certain things because I'm thinking, wow, this is what you're sharing is really so good because you're you talk about intentional conversations and I think that that is really key for every leader who's listening to this and And I would just say that, having those intentional conversations is what's going to move the needle and move the situation forward for, your organization, your team, or the person that you're leading.
Mm,
And having those hard conversations is and hard and intentional conversations is
mm.
really the important component of pushing through that. Yeah,
Can I just add to that real fast?
absolutely. Yeah,
So Dr. Andy Cloud, Create and Allow. This is a paraphrase from Extreme Ownership. Thank you,
yeah,
Jocko Willink and Leif Babin.
yeah,
Culture is simply a combination of tolerated behaviors.
yeah.
And if I choose to not have a hard conversation, then I'm allowing subpar, mediocre. And I'm not trying to say like I'm surrounded by mediocre people. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
Uh-huh.
if I know what gives me life and energy to thrive in my personal headspace, then I
Yeah.
want to surround myself with people that do that naturally. And if I
Mm-hmm.
don't intentionally find and nurture those relationships, that's on me. If I
Mm-hmm.
if I intentionally surround, if I intentionally allow behaviors that I tolerate,
Yeah.
crazy negative or pessimistic, or
Mm-hmm.
they're really okay with just not pursuing growth. Like if I allow that in my space, I will become like them. Like I
Yeah.
am a combination of the top 5 people I spend time with. And
Yeah.
so
Sure.
if that's true, then I choose to love, respect, value here everyone in my life, but I'm going to pursue and really like make prominent those relationships that help me be better and stronger
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Yeah, it's so good, man. I'm so glad you shared that. That extreme ownership book is there's so much value in that. I was actually just working with a client, and we took that book as kind of a basis of what were some of the leadership lessons that we can take and apply from what was shared in that book. And there's so many good ones. So I'm so glad that you shared that. It's such a good one. So let me ask this. As you're doing executive coaching now. You're
Mhm,
you're
mhm.
doing leadership development, and I'm wondering, as you work with clients, what do you see as one of the biggest reasons that they need to invest in the
Mm.
people element of the organization?
Ooh, it's so good. Well, just even add to that, people come to us because they want to get greater results with less drama to enjoy more
Mm,
freedom. And
yeah, I love
and
that.
we do that through one-on-ones, CEO masterminds, and executive leadership courses. And it's actually funny.
Yeah.
We took Extreme Ownership and made a whole year of
Oh,
the
cool.
book and supplement materials. I've actually listed a bunch of them even through this conversation that
I
we
love it.
we spend a whole year unpacking, developing, and honestly equipping. Like it's a skill they walk out afterwards with. And so people come to us because, man, they're hungry for
Mm,
growth.
yeah.
And that can mean the CEOs doing things really well. Like they've got some good rhythms and methods, but they want to take what is happening and kind of put a rhino horn on that and like see it
Yeah.
better.
Mm,
We took the phrase they want to turn decades into days. And so if you
mm,
want to get what you could be done in decades later,
yeah.
bring along Providence Coaching or a Sherpa,
Yeah. Yeah.
David, that could be you. So like whoever that is, like who
Yeah.
who is that trusted advisor that really helps us get there faster?
Mm-hmm.
And or man, they really do some organizational health challenges that they're going through,
Yeah.
and so we would come in and say, hey, here's what you're going to get. Here's how we can come alongside you and walk
Yeah.
with you through this journey. And again, I love teachers. I love like conferences. There's a lot of great knowledge there. But when someone talks at you for an hour or 2 3
Yeah.
days, I don't I don't get to walk alongside and grow. What we get to
Mm-hmm.
do is that Sherpa is walking with you up this
Yeah.
mountain. And I literally we were, this past year content, this leader had a pretty serious thing happen. And so outside of our agreed times, they called me and said, I need you. I'm like, cool, let's have a chat. So I actually there was a downtime. I had it was, a really wonderful moment that the
Yeah.
hour filled the hour I was free.
Yeah.
And we got to walk alongside each other and say, what about
Mm-hmm.
this? What about that? What is success? How do you hold accountable this behavior? What do you want to see this turn into?
Mm-hmm.
And we get to walk alongside them. And so people who they're hungry for growth, I would even say they're unsatisfied in the scenario they're in.
Yeah.
and they want to see that, they want to cast that vision and go towards it. And
Yeah.
they bring in someone alongside them to walk next to them to get those greater
Mm.
results with
Yeah.
less drama, to enjoy more freedom of
Yeah.
time, freedom of money, freedom of energy.
Yeah.
We had an executive, he was a CEO, who his family never saw him. He had all the
Yeah.
things. He had all the things that
Yeah.
money could buy, but he didn't
Right.
have time or family. And
Yeah.
through this, he now has the money, but not more importantly, has the family and the time.
Yeah. That's so
And
important. Yeah.
yeah,
So important. And I think that, as I hear you talk, one of the things that comes to my mind is, for those leaders who are listening, and you start thinking about, well, you know, have greater results with less drama. I mean, I love that line, and I love having that because I think that we've bought into this. I'm going to call it a lie that business has to be hard and business
mm,
has to take up all of our time. And, but breaking that cycle is really hard. And I think for some of the leaders who might be listening, that may be the place where they could push through their own terror barrier because, I'll just admit for myself, like I've been addicted to work, because
mm-hmm,
I love
mm-hmm,
work and I love being fulfilled through my work. And yet
mm,
that's not my totality of who I am as a human being,
mm,
as a father, as a spouse. And so I have to be able to, learn how to draw those lines. And that's my
mm.
own, my own terror barrier. And, even this summer I took a sabbatical, as, you and I were talking about before we came on air. I learned so much through that process of just being quiet and not having, things on my calendar. And
Mm,
so if you're a leader, I think that it's really important to kind of hear what Isaac is saying, and that is, look at who can be around you to help you to push through those areas that might be your own terror barrier, your
mm,
own growth zone, and how can you have those people come around you to help you move in the direction that will give you greater results and less
yeah.
drama, and really have the freedom that I know that you want to have. Well, Isaac, man, this has been such an enjoyable conversation. I know we could probably go on for
Absolutely.
a couple of hours,
Yep.
um, but tell everybody a little bit more about, like, what is Providence Coaching? Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit. How do they get a hold of you, and what do you do? Who do you serve?
Yeah, man. Thank you for this. Again, we could go on for probably days.
I know, I
Just
know.
speak the same language. Yeah, Providence Coaching works with CEOs and leaders who are hungry for growth and want to
Mm,
see the greater results, less drama, more freedom. And we do that through one-on-one coaching, mainly Zoom calls with us in
yeah.
person. And we actually have a community, a CEO mastermind, where these decision
Wow.
makers come together and they collectively attack these challenges and opportunities that,
Mm,
I mean,
awesome.
the one sentence version is, one guy started, and he was like, I'm not sure it's worth the financial investment. And on his year commitment, his first month, he saved himself 80 grand.
Oh,
Like on
geez.
like
Oh,
right
yeah.
there. And he was
There's
like,
great ROI for
cool.
you. Yeah.
I've obviously paid for the rest of this.
Yeah. I love
We do not charge 80 grand. It's way less than that, but
it. Way
it
less
was
than that.
obviously worth it.
Yeah.
And a lot of those CEOs, they've grown so much in their
Mm,
personal development, their personal leadership styles, that they started doing this, but their leadership
mm.
team, they were starting to scale their business, and our leaders, they're not ready. And so we've come on
Yeah.
and do,
Yeah.
we
So
actually
good.
have 3 years worth, but it's a 1 year commitment each year to really take these leaders to help them equip and implement, and then even just say, hey, what tool best fits
Mm,
my
yeah.
leadership team. And so these are often the C-suite, maybe even mid-level managers who
Yeah.
they lead 4 or so team members, and they're not fully equipped. Not that they're bad leaders,
Mm,
just hey, how can we come alongside you and make
yeah.
this even better? And
Yeah.
yeah, the part of the story we didn't get to, but we'll have to have another one,
Yeah. Sure.
uh is
Part
just
two.
the imposter syndrome that can kind of pop up.
Man,
And
it's so huge.
I'm not good enough to be a leader. Like, if they only saw behind the curtain, they'd realize
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here. But those leaders have just as much reason to be in charge as the next person. if they're willing to grow, if they're willing to really
Yes.
serve their team members. And
Oh,
we
so
come
good.
alongside and help give them tools
Mm,
to help them do well, because everyone can be an individual contributor. It's a
hmm.
different skill set to lead
It
and serve
is.
your team member. And so we get to come alongside again, one-on-one CEO mastermind and that leadership content.
Oh man, that's so great, Isaac. And you and I were talking even beforehand about we serve a similar audience, and I'm so grateful to be able to have people like you in
Mm,
my life to be able to see have other people that see things the way we see things, and to be
mm,
able to help and
mm,
serve the population of leaders that are not only in this country but all over the world. And
mm,
I think it's so important because I think the world needs better leaders right now. We need to be able to
mm,
step up, and we need
mm,
to be able to have people to have those intentional conversations. And as I was writing some notes, and I just want to challenge the leaders who are listening. Where is it? I'm going to use some language that Isaac used. Where is it that you need to plant the flag? Maybe you need to plant the flag on what's the next level of growth for you, and where do you need to push through your own terror barrier, and
mm,
and and maybe you have to also lean into some hard. It's in those hard elements, it's in those difficult moments when we're going to grow the most.
mm,
And it's not fun at the time. But man, the ride down is so good. It's so good when you get to the summit, and the view out there is so amazing. But there's also something that happens when you get to the top of the mountain, is that when you look out into the horizon, unless you're on Mount Everest, you are looking at other mountains that are equally as high, if not higher. And
mm,
so you need to come off that mountain so that you can go climb the next one. And so
mm,
I think that having the ability to kind of lean into that difficulty, and really, kind of defining what success looks like for you, is going to be really important. One last comment here, real quick. First of all, thanks for listening to the end. If you're still listening here, I appreciate it. Make sure you go out and share this element, or this episode with a friend that you think, somebody came to mind probably when you were listening to this conversation. Go share it with them. There's so many times I'm listening to a podcast and I hit the share button and I'm sending it to somebody. So I think it's really important to share, and it helps us to be able to really spread the message of leadership and growth. And Isaac, thank you so much for spending some time here together with me, and really just having an intentional conversation, as
mm,
you said it. And I really appreciate your ability to lean into your own growth journey. And I
mm.
just want to encourage people to reach out to you. We'll put all of your contact information in the show notes. And depending on when this airs, there may still be time for you to register for the Inner Circle Summit. That's going to be on November the 30th here in the Pittsburgh region. It's a new location. So if you've been to the summit before, it's going to be in a new location, totally different vibe, and we'd love to have you come. So click on the link that's in the show notes, and see if there's some space for you. But Isaac, great to have you here today, and great to have this conversation.
Gosh, David, you are a phenomenal leader who I love getting to hang out with. So this
Oh
is
man,
I'm so thankful you didn't just cut me off when I left Sojourn Adventures and came over to Providence Coaching. So
heavens no,
uh
man.
I did forget.
Yeah,
Can I just quickly share where
yeah,
they can find us? I was like, hey,
yes,
here's how we
absolutely.
serve.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, yeah.
LinkedIn, Isaac Phillips. We have a providencecoachinginc.com. And
Good.
we're about to launch a couple ways just to have continual content to hop up in your email. Quick little blurb on how to stay healthy and growing. But yeah, that's
Love
the
it.
primary things is Isaac Phillips at providencecoachinginc.com. Love to get an email from you or call you, and just
Yeah,
what are you going through? How can we serve?
yeah.
But David, you are
Mm,
phenomenal. I
mm,
cannot wait to just continue our friendship and growth as
yeah.
leaders.